All right, good evening, everybody. My name is Cody Bowden. I'm coming to you live from Broken Horn Radio. I'm here tonight by myself. My co-host Shane, as you all know, Shane's usually here with me. He wasn't here, able to be here tonight. However, he's here in spirit, right? He's out in South Korea doing good things. So I'm joined tonight by Shiry Sapir, who is running for Superintendent of Public Instruction. Is that correct, ma'am?
Yes.
All right. We're honored to have her here tonight. She's exactly the type of fighter that we need. We got the opportunity to meet her, me and my wife, at the Lincoln Day dinner, and we were very impressed just in the 3 to 5 minute conversation we had with her. And we were fortunate enough to have her come and sit down with us and give us an interview. So, ma'am, thank you for coming on. If you want to introduce yourself.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. Yes, my name is Shiry Sapir. I am running for Superintendent of Public Instruction here in Arizona. It's time that we change the leadership. We're having a lot of problems in the schools right now. So I decided that it's time that we do something about it and decided to run for this.
Okay, and then so I'm just going to start it off. When you hear education, not indoctrination, what does that mean to you specifically?
Yeah, that's my slogan.
Right.
It means, I try to explain to people and many understand. This is a long process that's been going on in the United States for decades, right? They've been bringing in Marxism, socialism, really fascism into the schools slowly, gradually, mostly in high academia. Then it went down. Now they're coming after our kindergartners with this stuff. So what is indoctrination? Indoctrination is bringing the same information that may be misinformation, that may not be correct, bringing it over and over and over in different forms to the eyes and the ears of these little children. So at some point, they just cannot, and they don't really have the tools anyways to process and make judgments. So at some point, it becomes a complete truth, an absolute truth for them, to them, facts. And it can be with changing history, right? If you're telling them enough times that history was in one way and not the other, that's what they're going to believe. If you tell them about science or biology or whatever the topics may be, politics, who is right, who is wrong, what's right, what's wrong, they will believe if it just comes at them enough times. And what I've noticed is that they've been systematically and methodically putting this information in their essays, in the books that they read, in the tests that they're giving them, the questions, the way they question them, all of these things are just, if it was an isolated incident here and there, I would have said, it might just be, unintentional. But because it's in every school, in every class, in so many ways, and it's so, as I said, it's really methodical when you start looking at it, I realized, they're not really educating our kids. And the fact is that the studies show that the scores are very low. Our kids are not graduating in high numbers. They're illiterate. They're functional illiterate. So for the amount of time that they have in the school, I don't believe they're getting true education, or they'll be doing a lot better academically, and they don't.
Right. And that goes along with the old saying, you tell a lie enough times, it becomes the truth.
Right. Yes.
Correct. And then,
yes.
A lot of people don't really make that connection too, and I'm glad you do, about the whole Marxist connection, because if you read the Confidence Manifesto and all the, Marxist paperwork or documents, they talk about how they have to, they indoctrinate the kids, the children in the schools, and they indoctrinate them.
Right. Hitler said, "He alone who owns the youth gains the future." It was no secret that that's exactly what they did. I mean, you have to think about it. How did they manage to get hundreds of thousands of men to do the unthinkable to millions of people? Somebody must have told them something, not once, not twice, and that in an older age. It must have been, a progress of this mindset of making things okay that are not okay. And this is really what this is about. This is about demoralizing people, right? When you're telling them to do things that are not moral, you can just go and tell them something, go kill someone. You can't do it, but when you systematically twist the way their brain understands a concept or accepts a situation or interprets a situation, then you can get them to do some things that otherwise they won't do. And this is what worries me about these young children, and we see that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then, this is what, and also in the Marxist paperwork and the documents, they talk about how, there has to be an oppressor and an oppressed, right? And even if there's not a real oppressor, you have to make one, right? So otherwise you're not oppressed. So
right.
Is that not what, this critical race theory and the 1619 Project, is that not kind of what all this is? It's remaking our history to what they want it to be, to where there is an oppressor, so that they can make our kids believe that they are oppressed.
Right. Well, that's all they do right now in the classroom. All they talk about, at some point in 1991 or 1992, a lady named Kimberly Crenshaw brought intersectionality into the concept of critical race theory. And basically she brought in sex and class into the mix.
Right.
So now it's not just about race or color, it's also about gender. That's why we have all these gender issues, and about class. That's why they keep talking about, socialism. That's those who have money, they're the oppressors, and those who don't are the oppressed. And this is the cultural revolution that they're trying to create, and the divide. Yeah. And it's very genius when you think about it, because they really, there's no way out of it, right? You're going to have to be, you're going to fall into one of these categories at some point, right?
Right.
And that's what they're banking on. And by separating these people, the problem is we're a little bit more intelligent than that. You cannot tell someone just because of the color, you don't know my story. You don't know what I've been through in my life. It doesn't matter what color of my skin. You have no idea who and what I am. The problem is we understand it, but those who have been in the system for long enough, and even those who've gone to college and universities and have been indoctrinated for a long time, they really, really can't see that. And they have this self-hate and self-guilt that it's just mind-boggling to watch. I mean, we have mothers who actually read to their little babies books about white privilege.
Right.
And they're white women reading to their white kids how to not be privileged. And it's right. Just mind-boggling. What kind of a mother, what kind of instinct does a mom have to do that to her own child? Something must have gone really wrong in the process of where she's gotten to. And that's not education. Right. Nobody taught her to do that other than somebody really indoctrinated her and brainwashed her along the way. And it's tragic.
Yes. And then, of course, we see what's happening I'm sure you're paying attention to what's happening in Virginia.
Yes.
With the school boards and school board meetings and all that. What are your thoughts on that? And if that ever happened what are your thoughts on that?
Well, we see it all over. Today I posted about Florida, in the school board meeting, the father was reading from one of the books, forgot the name of it. It's Queer, History of a Queer or something, Queer and Memoria or something. And there was a very, sexual, illicit, just language in that book. This is a book that's in the library in the school. And as he was reading into the school board, one of the members told the guards to escort him out because it was, too vile. And some of the other mothers, that were sitting in the boardroom that was videoing the scenario, she said, but this is what's in the school. This is what you're letting our children to read. And the member of the board told her, threatened her basically, do you want to be removed from here as well? So, and what happened in Virginia, I mean, it's just, it's all of the same. They're doing the wrong things with their policies of bringing transgenders into the restrooms. They're creating the problems. These are all man-made problems. This is the problem that I have with it. This can all be avoided. We can all go back to our normal life. They're just creating and compacting all these issues that we don't have to deal with. Absolutely. We really don't. And the school board meetings are ridiculous everywhere around the nation. Parents have to fight to be able to speak. And I thought we have the First Amendment in the United States of America, but I don't think we do anymore.
Now, as the superintendent of public instruction, what role would you have in stopping Arizona schools from allowing transgender bathrooms and that sort of thing, if any? Well,
this is the kind of this is the problems we're going to run to. I live in Scottsdale. The city council voted 7-0 and changed the ordinance in Scottsdale. It also happened in Mesa, and I'm sure a lot of other cities that I'm not aware of. to allow men in public schools in ladies' rooms. So this is a city ordinance. As a superintendent, I cannot overrule that, unfortunately.
Right.
But what we can do is definitely campaign on that, have the megaphone talking against it, lobby to the legislature, make sure that we put some serious laws against all this nonsense, that there are only two sexes, and that's the only two sexes that Arizona acknowledges to have, and they do need to be separated in public restrooms. And if they need to add another one that's unisex, do that, but don't bring to my 8-year-old daughter a man into her restroom when I'm sitting outside and I don't know what's going on in there. Absolutely no. Absolutely no. It's mind-boggling that this is even happening. So we're gonna have the megaphone. We're gonna work with the legislation, and it's gonna be tough with this because there's a lot to undo. That what I realized mostly right now. As a superintendent, there's going to be so much I'm going to have to get undone first before we even do anything, because so many of these policies have to be reversed, and the equity, inclusion, diversity, it's in everything. It's in every level of education. I mean, Kathy Hoffman, who is the current superintendent, she created the equity department in the Department of Education. And I can assure you that day one, that department will be closed under my administration.
Absolutely.
There's not going to be one employee that's going to work under the equity department. Absolutely no. So these are the kind of things that we can do within the department, and we're going to start trickling it down to the school boards. But at some point, the parents have to rise up and say, if this is what's going to happen, we're going to take our children somewhere else. Absolutely. And that is why school choice is number one on my agenda. There's nothing more important than school choice.
And speaking of school choice, let's just roll right into that. I know that's something that you're really big on. So if you care to explain exactly what,
So in Arizona, we have empowerment scholarship accounts, which are the school choice option we have. We have about 10,000 families on that option right now. And basically, you're getting a debit card, or you're getting a sum of money for a child, and you're allowed to take your child to any private school, any charter school. You can take them to a public school if you choose to. But you don't need ESA for that. Or you can homeschool and bring, if they're special need and they have special services, you can hire people to come home and give the services to your child. So you're getting full control over what the money that is allocated for your child is being used for, all right? And I say, if every child in Arizona is worth $10,000, every child should get $10,000, and every family should be able to put their child where they want, especially with what's happening right now in the schools. Not only the indoctrination, which is a huge problem in and of itself, it's also all the mandates, the mask mandates, the vaccine pressure, the pool testing, the quarantine. They're still quarantining these children. We're a year and a half into this, losing days upon days upon days for no good reason. Why? Right. There's no reason for that. So if that's what's going to happen in your public school, you can put them on notice and say, if you're sending my child to quarantine, I'm going to pull them out. And if they don't care, then that's great. Take your money and take it somewhere else. And that's got to be an option that every parent has, because guess what? It's their money.
Absolutely. And I had heard you speak. It was a video of you speaking, and you talked about something that really hit home for me. This mindset that is in our country right now of where, the mentality of your children belong to the state, not to you. And for 9 hours, they're temporarily loaned to you. And then the next morning when you drop them off to school, you shouldn't have any say so. You shouldn't, not only should you not know, but you shouldn't be able to ask. And then for 9 hours out of the day, you have no idea, and they belong to the state, which is also more Marxism for you. But, explain that too, how you think of that, how the mentality of the country right now is that that your kids aren't yours. Just like, they're telling your kids, or they're telling parents that you have to make get your kids vaccinated, which is, absolutely ridiculous.
Well, we know, and we've known for a long time about stories how they, Planned Parenthood have different clinics, and they solicit, girls to get abortion without the consent of the parents, even though they're minors. We know about all those stories. We know about Vax to the Max in Phoenix High School right now, when they're soliciting children to get the vaccine, or to prove that they have had the COVID vaccine, and they're going to give them $100 for that. Biden is paying for that initiative. So all of these things are happening. They're taking control. I mean, remember, let's think about this for a second. Why do we have educational institutions? To learn, to read, write, and do math. They're taking over medical responsibility over our own, absolutely against what we believe in. Religious responsibility, you know, they're bringing in all this modern secularism and atheism into the lives of our children, and forcefully so. In some instances, even satanic rituals and some demonic information. I mean, and I had a video about that. One of the books that is very prevalent in a lot of schools in Arizona, it's called Egyptian Games. If people want to look it up, it's completely unbelievable. And they're giving it to 5th and 6th grade children. It's about 2 children getting murdered by their neighbor, and they're doing these satanic rituals to please the gods. And this is just a book that they're reading in an English class. So all of these things just show us that they are trying to take over the character development, the mind development, the moral development, the religious development or lack thereof of our children. They want to make physical and medical decisions on their behalf. And this is a huge problem. You know, parents are, and you saw what, you know, the U.S. Attorney General just called us, you know, domestic terrorists. So for wanting to with children. So yeah, all of these things are just, there is, again, you can't say that there's no pattern, right? We're looking at all these things. If it was isolated incident here and there, you say, okay, whatever, it's a bad apple here and there. This is a massive, massive effort right now that I don't even think that we're as strongly defending ourselves as we should be, because yeah, we're going to some school board meetings. Yeah, we write about it, but what are we actually doing? Because they're coming after us, you know, they're coming after our children.
Correct.
In every aspect. And they do have our children a lot more than we do. And I can tell you, I'm all over the state with my campaign. This is a statewide office. And I tell people the saddest thing that I hear is that parents say, we sent our children to college, university, they went liberal, and they don't want to talk to us anymore. That is taking your child away from you. They don't talk to them. They have grandchildren there with tears in their eyes. And this is not one person here and there. This is in every group that I've been in front of.
Right.
I mentioned some of these things and somebody comes to me after, or 2 or 3. Now I'm actually having people raise their hand, because it's like almost a group therapy, because I want to show people they're not alone and it's not their fault. Nobody's perfect being a father or a mother, but when the system actually takes away completely over the mental and emotional connection that you have to your child, that's concerning. I would hate to raise my children for 20 years and them just getting lost because I sent them to college while I was paying for it again. Wow. You know, so yeah, parents' rights are a huge issue that we have to face. Absolutely. Right now.
And I've heard people, you know, make the assumption that maybe that's why they're trying to make college free.
Yes, they do. And preschool. So 2 years of preschool and 2 years of college. Yes. Oh, yes.
And they're trying to. I think one of the reasons why they're trying to do that maybe is because they want to indoctrinate everyone that they possibly can. So they want everyone to go.
Well, they're looking and they're saying, well, we succeeded with 50% of the country. 50% is still resisting. So we need a few more years. It's not enough.
Absolutely, because if a kid goes to a tech school, he's not going to get that indoctrination that he's going to get if he goes to a public university or whatever.
Right.
And so, you know, if you are elected this seat, I mean, what's your? I know school choice is a big part, but what is really your driving force of what you're going to do?
Right. Yeah. So school choice will be my number one. Working with the legislatures to really clean up some of, you know, Title 15, the education statutes are very patchy, you know, because they had some things, then they changed them. Then there's a lot of conflicting information in the law. And I think that's why people have all these loopholes. So we really need to look at some of them and clean some of these things up. As far as the cultural change that we need to have in the education system, it's going to begin with the teachers. You know, a lot of them are being indoctrinated, in my opinion, in the teachers' colleges. So, not actually my opinion. I've actually seen some of the things that they're teaching them, and it's 100% indoctrination. It's all about inclusion, diversity, equity. Not really a lot about how to become a fantastic teacher. So we need to help them out. We need to make sure that we mentor them the right way so they don't get lost in this nonsense and they actually go and do what they probably initially really wanted to do, which is teach children and be amongst the children and help them out. So we need to change the culture, and we need to make sure that the training and the mentoring is done through the Department of Education. We need to make sure that we have better communication with the parents. The parents have, I mean, you can complain to the Department of Education, good luck if you're going to get a response, because the system, it's like a protection plan, right? I mean, if a teacher does something wrong, the administrators are, just like what happened in Virginia, right? I mean, that was a crime that was committed, and it was completely concealed by the administration. It was unbelievable. So, and actually I was looking, I forgot the number of the bill, but there was a bill in 2020 that was passed in Virginia that I think that's what allowed them to do this. Actually, that bill, and I can look it up and send it to you.
Yes, please.
Actually specifically said not to, that they don't have to, that schools don't have to report criminal activity in the school.
Yes.
And that was a bill that was passed in 2020. So it's a protection plan. And we need to have some people in the Department of Education that are acting as compliance, task force, not protection task force for the rest of them. And I think if we have that under my administration, and I assure you we will, there's going to be a lot more accountability. And that's what we're after. Accountability. If you're doing nothing wrong to my child, we're good. Absolutely. But if you're doing something bad to my child, you're going to be held accountable. And that's what parents are expecting.
Absolutely. And now we're running out of time here, but when or how can people reach you? Like, what's your social media accounts? How can people reach you and donate?
Sure.
Or sign the petition or whatnot?
Thank you. Yes. So my website is electshiry.com. It's spelled SHIRY-SAPIR. I'm from Israel, so it's a little different. So electshiry.com. You can go on my website. You can sign my petition to get me on the ballot. You can donate and be just part of the movement, because this is not about me at all. You can find me on Twitter @ShirySapir.com. And just let's make sure we are in this together. This is not about me. This is not about me having any aspiration to be a politician. This is about me fighting for my children. I have 3 of them. I love them more than the world. And I want to make sure that other kids in Arizona get the best shot at life. And it's really time that we stop the pipeline from public school to prison. It's time that we give real opportunity to all these minorities that the Democrats always say they care so much about. We need to make sure that we're giving them that school choice. We're allowing them to go somewhere else. We need to make sure that the foster care children get the kind of attention they need. They're already moving in between so many houses. We as a society need to make sure they go to the same school and they're staying with the same friends and assisting in them. And we can do that. There's enough money. There's transportation option. Why nobody cares about any of these things? Because they don't care about the kids. It's time that we focus on the kids again.
Absolutely. And I just want to say thank you for coming on the show.
Sure.
We need women like you out there that's strong on their values, strong in their beliefs, and not afraid to stand up and for what's right and run for office. That's great. That's what we need. Because they're finding out real quick over in Virginia a bunch of TikTok mothers, and it's about to change a gubernatorial election right now. So hopefully. Yeah,
on November 3rd, it's going to be very telling. We're going to see if our movement is actually what we think it is, and I think he's gonna have a surprise there in Virginia. So we'll see.
So.
I hope so.
So, ma'am, I thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on the show. Everything you stand for is awesome. We need to get critical race theory out of our schools. It has no business in there. They're trying to rewrite our history, like you touched on earlier, and we can't allow that to happen. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
There's no better place than America. So
absolutely,
and we're going to fight for it. We have to.
Ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. And
thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Have a great night. Thanks.
Have a good
Bye-bye.
one.